Happy Friday. How's it going, man? This is we have our guest for the first time, Bush. I'm in I think we're in 3 or 4 dynasty leagues together.
Yeah, it sounds right. You run them all, and I just click the link when you send them, dude.
I think in my Twitter bio I have dynasty startup pusher because like it's literally like I'm just like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I just want to kind of have it be like the settings I want, everything, not have to like, oh yeah, we're gonna switch it to 0.5 PPR like in the middle of the draft when people vote for it. So
Yeah,
and I'm just
it's so much easier when you
but
have just like one rule set at the start, especially if you play in like I play in I think it's 11 leagues now, and I have probably 4 rule sets to remember, and it like drives me nuts. And then yeah, I did a bunch of startups last off season, and now even some of us are still figuring out like, oh, what order are we doing for rookie drafts? I thought it was max points for. I thought it was points for. I thought it was finishing position. And I like see these combos and my brain just like shuts off because it's like, how did we not figure this out a year ago? Like, how did we pay into this and not have this one answered? It's
yeah,
so
man.
much nicer when it's all just the same. And
I
I'm
was
like,
gonna
all right,
say
I
there
know,
can't be
I
two
know.
there has to be like the same variables going on, otherwise my brain will just explode into a million tiny pieces.
Yeah.
So I obviously I know you through the dynasty leagues. I don't did you just I think I posted it probably like in the leg up Discord. Is that where you found it? Okay.
Yeah.
Um and then I obviously know you through the ship chasing community as well. So we got a little crossover going there. But just give us a little background about yourself, kind of where how you got into fantasy football, your background, what you enjoy, and yeah, because I know you pretty well, but obviously would love to learn more. So
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a chemical engineer. I'm a couple years out of college now. I've been playing fantasy for probably about better part of a decade.
okay,
Like I didn't really take it seriously in like high school. I remember my freshman year of high school. I played a fantasy baseball league with some friends and got kicked out because I traded Felix Hernandez for a cupcake one day during chemistry class, or it was biology. Um, and then 3 weeks later, I was able to pick up Felix Hernandez again because he had a couple bad starts, and they got mad that I got third in the league. And that was just like, I love doing that. Like I just love being right at the end of the day. So it's that like always edge hunting mindset has always plagued me, where I need to be right and I'll do whatever I have to get it. And I'm just a very analytical person. Um, so I went through college. I had some buddies who were all like math engineer types. We all liked trying to like solve these things. We play fantasy together. And so we started kind of getting into modeling, whether it's fantasy, betting markets, like game simulation type of stuff. And we weren't good at it, to be clear. But COVID hit, and my 2 best friends and I got basically just trapped in this basement apartment. Couldn't go to classes in person anymore. Had nothing else to do, so we just sat down every day and we're like, all right, how are we going to figure this out? Like, how does the NBA work? Let's see what we can do. And we just started making a bunch of NBA models. And then we started realizing we could do that for fantasy too. So the past like couple years, I've been modeling fantasy more. And then, last summer, I was lucky enough to move, and my job offered me to a work from home position just to stay with the company. Um, and so I had my setup to where I could kind of watch videos or listen to podcasts while I got my work done for the day. And I just ran into a lot of like ship chasing content, that kind of stuff, and best ball content. And that's kind of how I really got into best ball last year. Um, and then throughout the year, it's a really fun format, man. So like the playoff stuff hit, and I was just like, all right, I'm going to simulate these whole contests and figure out who's the best, right? Because this is a different game. People are playing it wrong. I'm going to answer it, and I didn't, but it was fun to try.
It's a
So
fun equation to try to figure out.
yeah,
Yeah,
so that's the background.
nice. Yeah, no, because I like I said, I know you. Here we go. Historical anomalies. What's good? What's good? Travis, Red Pandas, Logan, El Coach, our guest host, our co-host. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, because I noticed you were a sharp guy just in our dynasty startups, just whatever feel like your structure was really good, and just when I was talking to you about trades and stuff, it's like you seemed like you knew what you were doing pretty well. You can kind of tell pretty close when you first communicating with someone like in a startup and they're trying to do a crazy trade, and you're like, okay, I don't think you've done that many of these. But yeah, I'm really interested. I know you have an art talking about models. You have a running back model that you have been working on that you think might have some juicy tidbits of alpha for us. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think what else. We Have you done any startups this off season yet?
I haven't, and I've been watching some of the streams, and man, that last one with Coach really got me having the itch to get into another one. I was watching you guys go through that, and I was like, oh, there's some things in here that aren't right. I got to go click the buttons. I got to go get these. Like, I can't let it go. But
Yeah, man.
I felt that way in doing some of our startups last year, and I look and like two of my worst teams are definitely two of the earliest ones I did, where I felt like, there's a huge edge on this player. Like I think one of them has Cooper Cup, which I think he's still fine, but it's just like you got a bad run out. And another has Devontae Adams, and again, I think he's still good, but he's just getting old. And it makes it hard to be flexible when you have players like that out of a startup. So I think you have to just be very careful where you pick them. Um, so like I probably need to look at some sleeper ADP before I jump in another startup and make sure I'm not just doing that to myself again.
Yeah, we used to have a Deco. I don't know if you use that tool, but
Great tool.
yeah, that's the best tool in the industry in my opinion. I am biased, but yeah, no, it's been solid. I feel like the first couple weeks were like real the Wild West. So that was a little bit tough, but I feel like now this is it, like in pre Super Bowl around this time, like February before the draft is a good time because it's like you get both the rookie picks are still going to go up in value during this time because we don't have like necessarily now. I think this year we do have like 107 and like through 107 we know kind of who it's going to be, but
Mhm.
after that it's like whoever gets draft capital. So I think they will go up those ones after the 107, and then so that's something you can take advantage of. And then also conversely, a lot of the vets are really cheap right now. Like Diggs, I've gotten them a ton in like the seventh round.
Yeah.
Devontae, same thing, seventh round. Cup fell to me at 906. Whatever, across the board, running backs as well. There's a good pocket in like the ninth, 10th, 11th. So yeah, it's like, and looking back at last year too, I think some of my not necessarily where the ones that I didn't win the league, but that's more outcome focused, but like process based. Um, I feel really good about the teams I did in like January, February last year. So I think that's not just a blip. I think that's probably if you really are tapped into both those things, it's a time to take advantage of. So I'm probably going to hold off for startups for a little bit just for my own sanity. Not that I want to do more, but I should stop. But it's hard when you do feel like you're like, okay, this is something I can't take advantage of. So
Yeah. I mean, it's you look at it and think you have an edge, and you're like, well, I know the right play is to just play it as much as I can, right? But then you think about it for a second, you're like, if I have to manage 100 dynasty teams in season, I'm gonna scream. So
yeah,
I get holding off for a bit. That
yeah,
seems really
I need to figure out some sort of AI that can manage my dynasty leagues. That's the real next frontier
fair.
is that. But I'm not a tech guy, so I'm gonna have to outsource it to somebody. But
Yeah, I'm not good enough at that kind of stuff. I'm much more on the like data science kind of side, but I keep looking at it. I'm like, if I could just figure out a way to like build something where I can set myself to say, start this player over this one like 70% of the time, right? And or give it rankings and like kind of randomize through them so you get like a mix of the players you want to be starting and sitting. I would be in 200
I
leagues.
think there's I was talking to someone about something like not exactly like that, but like where you can kind of like set across all your leagues like different some similar to that. So
Mhm.
it might be coming. I'm not sure. so that you might
That's
have to dive
dangerous.
deep.
That's dangerous. I don't know that I needed that information.
Okay, just wipe that from your brain. That never happened. Let's just start back from 10 seconds ago. Um, okay, yeah, why don't you pull up your model? Because I mean, I think I'm pretty tapped into to both. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring up with before we jump into this. Is I think people I know people are either really into best ball or they're really into dynasty, but I really do feel like it's a big advantage to be tapped into both because I don't know, it's like I just feel like you're even more like it's good to be tapped in 100% one, 100% the other, but it's like you lose some of the like lose sight of some of the other side if you get dig too deep into one or the other. So I think it's nice this time of year. Obviously, it was a little I was getting a little bit burnt out on Dynasty with no best ball draft. So it's nice to kind of have something to another game to solve. How do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like you kind of it's good to bounce between the two, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they playing both like definitely makes me a better player between them. I think there's some negatives, like you can get dynasty brain and get a little too into one rookie, um, or like disregard old players in best ball a little too much. Like those are some common tropes that I feel like people definitely hit. But I think it really keeps you in touch with the landscape a lot more. And honestly, a lot of dynasty really it really forces you to like focus on this like projectable mindset, which I think is really good, where you're in the whole offseason, you're thinking like, okay, sure, this player just did this, but do I think they're going to do that again, or do I think they're going to overperform or underperform? And I think that's kind of a really good way to approach it because you can like you always have those results in your mind. You can always kind of play with them mentally, build these simple mental models, and then you see best ball ADP, and some things might not click. Like last year, Devin Chain was like one of my biggest stands because I was sitting there. I was like, this guy is getting drafted highly in rookie drafts. He just got good draft capital. He went to a great spot, and you're picking him around no one else. On the downside, I looked at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and I was like, I don't think that offense is going to be good. I think Chris Godwin's going to be the one that gets all of it. I was very wrong there, and it was more expensive to be wrong on that, unfortunately. Um, but just the process of kind of toying with that, I think was good, right? And it got me onto some players that probably wouldn't have been otherwise. And it's just nice to have different ways to balance out your exposure to a player in a certain year, right? Like best ball ADP, like this year, for example, like Kyron Williams, like a first round pick, second round pick in best ball right now. That's like a really expensive bet to make, but like mid late fifth in dynasty startups, that feels a lot better. Um, it's nice to be able to kind of take advantage of those different avenues when they open up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think it's like you something you brought up that really triggered something in my brain was yeah, like the dynasty brain in like this time period, like kind of going into the summer. And then once you get to August, it's like, oh God, like I'm in completely uh, best ball brain where all I care about is points. So I think it's almost like I want to go into it like really, really just hammering into my head. And it's like if you almost switch the two at the different times of year, I think you can really take advantage. It's kind of like what we were just
Yeah,
talking about, but like really buying the guys who you think, okay, who are the projectable points guys when we get to August and using that dynasty mindset to kind of project that ahead with the situations and everything. And then in August, you can kind of flip that around and be like, okay, who are some of the young guys that maybe they didn't get a good landing spot? Maybe they, whatever, like they're injured or something where the general public is fading them. And you can kind of lean into those edges where you feel like, okay, well, I trust in the profile or I trust in this or that. I think that's a good way to go about it. So yeah, thanks for kind of confirming and also pushing back
oh
on
yeah, yeah. Whenever someone confirms your biases, it's nice, right?
it.
That's a real goal here.
Yeah, that's really what we're aiming for, right?
Yeah.
So you have this beautiful, sexy spreadsheet here for us. Why don't you walk us through it a little bit, and give us any things that are really standing out to you at this point?
Yeah, yeah, happily. So one of the things that I think is kind of a leak among fantasy football in general is that I think fantasy football as a game is pretty distant from like the actual goal of football a lot of the time, and that like fantasy points are disproportionately affected by touchdowns. You don't score for first downs typically, but teams can value first downs. Things like that, where like there's nuances to football that we don't pick up in our game. So I really try and base a lot of my analysis around what's going to happen on the actual field, right? And I think one of the benefits of that is that the coaches are going to care about that more. The coaches tell us all the time they don't give a shit about our fantasy football teams, but they do care about like putting winning teams on the field. So, like I said, I'm a very analytically minded person. I'm into all the advanced stats. Two of the big ones for running backs are success rate and EPA per play. So, for those who aren't aware, there's a lot of ways to define success rate. The one I'm talking about right now is just did you generate expected points on a play or not? And typically for running plays, the answer is no. The league average success rate is around 40%. And this is why we've seen a shift to passing over the past decade. And you've probably heard about that talked about in the media and kind of throughout the industry a lot. EPA per play is an estimation of, going from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 5, how many points is that worth? It's worth more points the closer you are to the end zone, right? Because if you have 30 yards to go and now you're 25 yards to go, it's easier to score a touchdown. It's easier to kick a field goal. If you take the ball from your own 25 to your own 30, you still can't score any points if you don't move it anymore. So that's why I like to base it around these. It helps to account for situation a lot better. And football is this inherently really heavily correlated game. I think we struggle to pull a lot of that correlation out all the time, right? We say, this quarterback is good and these receivers aren't good, or the receiver is the only part and the quarterback is terrible. And I think that's kind of not the right way to do it, right? It's like probably the receivers are responsible and maybe the quarterback's bad, San Francisco, but we shouldn't be like super confident that Brock Purdy is awful and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are the reason he's succeeding. Like maybe Brock Purdy's fine too, and those guys are being elevated by him. That's also a possible outcome. I kind of derailed myself there, and I'm sorry.
No. This is golden. I love it. Yeah.
So my idea here for running backs is we look at things like yards per carry, and that's a really unstable number, and it really doesn't tell you like what they did on the field, right? And everyone gets this intuitively, because if I asked you to run up the middle, like dead up the gut on a dive play 250 times, or run around the end 250 times, anyone in their right mind would say those end runs are going to generate more yards. Like that's fully it. But you obviously don't just do that every time. There's a little bit of game theory in that if you ran around the end every time, the other team's going to just defend that, and then it's more valuable to go up the gut. So what I did in my model here is I took some publicly available participation data, which tells you things like what players are on the field, how many players are in the box, where the run went, which direction the run went, and I tried to learn, given the conditions, where you are in the field, what down it is, how many players are in the box, how many players are in the box for your team, what should your success rate on that be, right? So if let's say it's 1st and 10 and they have 8 men in the box and you've got 3 wideouts, you probably shouldn't be as successful as a 3rd and 10 run where they've got 5 corners on the field. Going through this, I tried the same thing for EPA per play. It didn't work out as well, and I'm still working on that one. But expected success rate, which is this metric I've created here, is actually more predictive of itself or stable year to year than a player's success rate. And my guess is that that's probably because in things like success rate, we're overvaluing guys getting favorable situations. And so This is kind of what I'm trying to show on this plot here to the right. Guys on the left are getting harder situations relative to the guys on the right. So guys on the right are probably getting a better blocking advantage They might be running with more corners on the field. They might be running on third down more. They might be running around the end more. Guys on the left might be getting more runs up the gut. They might be running on 1st and 10, things like that. You still with me?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any questions you want to ask so far, or do you want me to keep rambling?
No, please keep rambling. The only thing that just makes me laugh was Gus Edwards over here all the way to the right. I'm just
Gus
that
Edwards
makes
is like
that confirms a lot for me. Okay.
Gus Edwards. And as a side note, when I first ran this, I ran it in like week 12, and Devin Achan literally broke the graph. It was like the equivalent of being up here because he had like 2 weeks played and like a 70% success rate. So I had to give him his own label that just said Devin Achan, because
God.
otherwise, like, you would just miss him. Gus Edwards, though, is like, I think he still might be, or he's second now as like the yards per carry leader in NFL history for people with over like 500 carries or something, which is the funniest stat because like no one thinks he's that good. But then every year you look and it's like he had 8 carries for 80 yards again. I don't really know how, but he did it. So anyway,
Lamar Jackson.
yeah, it's the Lamar Jackson effect. That's probably something I should check on, is like, what's your quarterback's rushing ability? Um, Whatever. Anyway,
Keep going. Keep going.
well, yeah. So one thing I then got curious on was, can we use this to predict fantasy output? If this expected success rate is more stable year to year than success rate, can we use this to help us identify some people that are going to be more valuable to us? And funnily enough, I'm working on a name, so if anyone has any suggestions, but I think it's come up with the list of like dusty vets that no one wants to touch but end up being good. Um, I'm going to give the small sample caveat now that this is like 20 players or something. I'm able to like kind of say with somewhat confidence that this really applies to, um, but it's giving like decently early returns. So I've got here is I'm able to go back to 2017 with this. You'll see the season here, the team they played for, who the player was, how many carries they had, and then this is if in their season, I guess let me backstep a bit. What I did was I pulled out players who in the year we're looking at underperformed their expected success rate, but in the prior year overperformed.
Okay.
So the idea there is they were previously good and then just had a rough year.
Sure.
This is the change in their expected success rate. So on this column, you're going to see, right, Raheem Mostert, his expected success rate in 2022 was significantly higher than in 2021, meaning he was starting to get easier carries. And then here we're going to see Raheem Mostert's 2022 PPR rank, which was 25th overall. I pulled this from Fantasy Pros, so I'm sorry if there's some slight errors. Raheem Mostert kind of balled out this year. I don't know if you noticed that, but I
100%.
wanted him on a lot more of my teams, and I really wish I hadn't clicked so much Jeff Wilson.
We're
Turns
in the same
out,
boat there, brother.
yeah, turns out I made the wrong bet there, but he really pops in here. And what I kind of have noticed is that you see basically players who overperform their expected, or whose expected success rate rises and who have previously been good at this kind of thing, they keep overperforming their previous year PPR rank. 2020, James Conner. 2021, he ends up the RB5. Nick Chubb in 21, RB6 in 22. Cordarrelle Patterson falls off, and he was pretty much a unicorn. So I'm not going to sit here and like say it's fine, but I don't know that I really would ever expect that one. Adrian Peterson played like 4 games in 2021. So again, I'm not super worried about this one. And then in 2022, we've got Josh Jacobs, who balled out then. And in 2020, Alvin Kamara was the RB1. So this top section looks to be a pretty valuable subset. I don't know if I'm just running into noise or if I've actually found something. I think it'll be a fun exercise then if we look at people who fit this criteria for 2023 and potentially could be our 2024 pops. I kind of wish Alvin Kamara wasn't at the top of the list, but what are your thoughts?
You know what? I actually just took my first Alvin Kamara share in a startup. I think I've took over an orphan previously that had him on there, and I traded him away for 2025 first, like sometime in November or something, because I was like, I had a really old team. But
Mhm.
I mean, I think the thing with Kamara is whether he's with the Saints, which I think is pretty likely, but even if he leaves, like he gets a lot of the high value touches. So goal line and catching passes is pretty much his bread and butter. So even if he's getting worse from like a efficiency standpoint on the ground, like I don't think it really matters that much. And he's not as old as it seems. Like I think he's 28, which
Mhm.
is old for a running back, but it's like we're taking like James Conner, Aaron Jones, like some of these guys that are going in a similar range in Dynasty are even older than him. So I think that seems right to me. I don't know. I think he's a very good buy right now. He's going late, like 10th round in Dynasty, and in where I don't know where's he going in best ball right now, like 60 or something like
I
that.
think he's going in like the 70s or 80s.
Okay,
We'll
I was
find
gonna
out in
say
a little bit, but
I think I think it's a good bet to make, honestly, just for the upside he provides at both of those costs. So yeah, what about you? What do you, how are your thoughts on Kamara this year?
I mean, I really didn't have any thoughts until I saw this. And I think you've kind of convinced me that like it probably is good. I think the pass catching is a skill set I'm willing to kind of bet on aging better. Um, I think the skill set that I would most be concerned with aging wise is like explosiveness and breakaway runner types. Um, guys who break off a couple big runs and when you start to get older, start to have some wear on your tires. I think that's kind of the thing that wears down. Kamara being so successful is pretty promising to me because I think coaches can find a way to like fit that into their game plan, right? Like it's very easy to justify, well, this guy is really like he has good vision. He's just gonna get what you need. So sure, maybe he's not breaking off these huge runs anymore, but he can be a great red zone back. And yeah, the price is like that's a cheap bet to make on someone who we've seen be really, really good in fantasy before.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you said, like I mean, I think because I think the antithesis of kind of the Kamara like uh getting the high value touches, kind of like you said, the breakaway type guy, and like kind of like Saquon falls into that for me, where it's like he's so his success is so contingent on those long runs and him just kind of being super athlete. Not that he can't catch passes and he's fine at the goal line too, but he seems like the type of guy where when he whatever either going, I think what is he 26 right now, so he's
Mhm.
getting up there in age. It's not to the point where I'm like writing him off, but definitely not the type of guy where when he's 28 I'm going to be betting on him in the same way as Kamara. So
Yeah, if we do a little inspection on my chart here, Saquon, falls below the average by quite a margin. So this is kind of where you would expect a player to be, and Saquon falls, right next to Kenneth Gainwell, which is not the player I really want to put next to Saquon. Um, I think Saquon's a pretty talented player, but I kind of agree that I think he's more breakaway oriented than people realize, um, and that's just not something I want to be invested in long term.
it's just a more fragile bet to make,
Yeah,
right? Like if he's still explosive as he was, then okay, he's probably fine. But it's like that is something running backs break down with age, obviously, as we know. And I mean, all players as they get older lose a little bit of explosiveness. So it's like if he continues to do it year over year, then you can kind of keep like it's kind of like the wide receiver cliff thing where like they're going to keep doing it until they don't. But
mhm.
I think Saquon's shown us some signs where it's like he hasn't fallen off completely, but it's not like he's the same guy he was when he was a rookie or a sophomore. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it literally might be Kamara last year, right? Like he might still be fine, or he could just kind of fall off out of nowhere. And that's really not the coin flip I want to make, especially because he's still priced up like well over Kamara. The name value really feels like it's carrying him, especially from a dynasty standpoint. I really don't want to be in on players that are just going to take a nosedive. and that's typically aging running backs, which I know basically everyone says they don't want to be in on these guys. I'm fine like going out and buying them, like an Aaron Jones type. I think is like a great buy right now because if it fails, you didn't spend like a mid first round pick to hit it. But if you go out and spend your mid first on Saquon and then he flops, like you have just put yourself in a hole for a year, and then you have no youth regenerating that, and it's just hard to dig out of that, right? It's just kind of like 2 years of paying in the rake, and that's really something I try to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the difference is the cost, right? Like we always say the cost, the cost, the cost, but it's like Saquon's still going in like the fifth or sixth round of startups. And he's going near like Barber before Diggs, before Adams. And it's like those guys are liable to score more points and they haven't fallen off yet from like a peripheral standpoint. So it's like I'd much rather make that bet. And also, like you said, Kamara, Aaron Jones, James Conner. I see another guy on here, Ramondre, um, Brian Robinson. Like all these guys are priced so much differently. 5 rounds later, 6 rounds later. Um, so the opportunity cost is just so great there.
Yeah.
And there's some other guys that are like that where it's just like the juice is not worth the squeeze for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun things about best ball right now is like player takes are still such a dominant um, edge, but also I don't think we really understand the market and like opportunity cost specifically. I think people have an idea of it, certainly, like this whole discussion, right? Oh, this player is priced up, but I think their range of outcomes is around this other one who's 5 rounds cheaper. But I think the second we can quantify that, like you can really, really get an edge on how much you should be dialing in an exposure. I think that'll be a really cool advent for the best ball community.
I think so too. Why don't you talk about the second guy on the list, Najee? Because we were talking about him before we hopped on the stream, but I actually bought my first share in a startup last week, so I'm feeling pretty good about him.
Yeah, this is like I saw this one coming last year. I feel like kind of smart. I feel like I have a crystal ball because I was drafting last summer thinking I'm not taking. I literally took zero Najee in any of my best ball drafts, which was upwards of 300, and I have zero of him in any redraft or dynasty. Um, I thought his cost was egregiously high for a mediocre player, and I was doing it like staring at Josh Jacobs being priced up, thinking next year is like probably Najee's Josh Jacobs year. Like it just fits way too well. And here I sit with this stupid metric I decided to create telling me that I have to go pick Najee Harris now. But it might be good. Like I mean, this is kind of what he's supposed to fit, right? He's not supposed to be an explosive guy. He's not supposed to do the breakaway stuff. He's just supposed to like be this bruiser type that can get you first downs, do the right thing on a play. He can catch the ball a little bit, and he just got a really run heavy OC. So, like, his situation probably just got better. This is saying he underperformed what he should have, and he's probably a better player than we're believing. And the cost is pretty cheap right now. Like, I'm unfortunately kind of going to be in. And I really hope I'm not wrong because that's going to feel awful if I am.
I mean, I think I was talking about this last stream, but I mean, yeah, like what? So Arthur Smith, I don't know, maybe this is just completely vibes based numbers, but like what? Like probably around 25 to 30 carries a game and then 5 or 6 targets for the running backs. And I know Jalen Warren is probably more likely to get the third down role and the long distance role, but it's not like Najee's going to catch no passes. So if that's between 15 and 18, 17 touches a game, that's a pretty good role, especially with we've seen running backs be super efficient in the Arthur Smith running schemes. He's very good at scheming up the run game. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, honestly. And he's still only 25. It's not like he's super old and dusty. He's never been particularly explosive in the first place. So yeah, I'm very in on Najee this year, which I think a lot of people are, but this is good to confirm our biases of buying the guys who we previously hated, which honestly, I've done complete turnaround on a few guys this year, and it just makes me feel so gross from like that probably means this is the time to do it. So
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's one of those plays where you have to jam, and it's low probability, but when it works, it's huge. It never feels good. It never feels
Feels
good,
so gross.
but it's going to work out. This is going to win us the big board, and we're going to be sitting here recapping it, saying we talked about Najee. See, we were right. We always had this idea in mind.
It
The other thing I have about Najee that I think is a plus is I don't have the exact splits on hand, but when Broderick Jones got on that offensive line last year, their run game and their whole offensive line really got significantly better. He looked awesome. And I think there is a lot of upside. I don't think we know how to quantify offensive line play, but
no,
I
not at all.
think if Broderick Jones is out there doing what he did, Arthur Smith can probably make good use of him, and he could probably really put up a nice floor for Najee.
And hey, Darnell Daddy, Daddy Darnell too.
Oh my
That's
God.
pretty much a six offensive lineman at your tight end too. So that helps a lot
Yeah.
too. Those two, the Georgia boys, they will definitely help fuel the run game.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad it's Connor Hayward's season, because I particularly like Pat Frymuth, and I think Darnell Washington would be fun to watch. But Connor Hayward will be a really fun player to tilt next year.
Absolutely. Tight end three is the prime role in the Arthur Smith.
Exactly. All right.
Some other guys that stand out to me and are also confirming my biases are Ramondre he's going a little bit higher in best ball. He's like what 60s right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
But in Dynasty, he's same thing, like ninth, 10th round. I think whatever. He was on the one of the worst offenses in the league. And he's also kind of the similar guy, like not super explosive. So this is kind of a trend here where reliable runners that are viable in the passing game, which I think that's Ramondre to a T. Zach Moss was surprisingly productive. And I, speaking of explosive, he looked a lot more like explosive than he did in the past, but same kind of guy where those same traits apply. Um, Tony Pollard is one that I definitely like am biased against. So that's an interesting one. Chuba, I'm pretty into, and B Rob, I'm pretty into just kind of because he's the same type. But why don't you run through any thoughts on any of these guys below who we just talked about?
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things I noticed, and I won't drag us through all the other sheets, but like older guys who kind of seem to be on their last legs, like Zeke, like potentially Austin Eckler, uh, they typically kind of just disappear after these seasons, and they're probably not worth investing much into. I would be more concerned about that in Eckler's case, especially because he's a free agent. We don't know where he's going to go. That's potentially a good thing, but I don't know that I really want to find out. I've never been a huge believer in him. I think he's obviously a good football player. A lot of his best fantasy seasons were kind of produced via short passes, and that's something he's really awesome at. I just think it's a really hard skill set to keep. Like, I don't think offenses are going to keep scheming that stuff
It's
in.
situation dependent. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think Keenan Allen was hurt in like a couple of his RB1 season. I think in a couple of his really big seasons where it's like they need to produce offense, so we got to dump it off to Austin Eckler a shit ton. So
yeah. I have some stuff that kind of segments targets and route, or not really routes, but targets and kind of yards and stuff by where on the field the ball was caught, and if it's on the sidelines or in the middle. It was for some wide receiver work I was doing, and one of the things I noticed was Austin Eckler's 2022 was like the third highest short outside reception season by any player, let alone a running back. So great for him. I mean, that was awesome. But I'm not going to bet on that kind of thing keeping up, right? Tony Pollard is one that he's my like, I feel like that's a disgusting click to me because he just felt so bad all year. But I'm willing to believe that he's still talented. The foot injury was worse than we really believed. And if he ends up back in Dallas, like he's probably getting a similar role. They maybe bring in someone behind him. Maybe they give Rico Dowdle a little more work, but I don't really see him losing the pass catching stuff. So I'm a little optimistic there. I probably won't click a ton. Ramondre, I'm probably a little less bullish on than you. Um, that offense was atrocious for the second year in a row. One of the things that I do think is a plus is I don't think they're going to pick a running back. I think Bill is out of there. I think they know they have to go get premium positions and they need a lot of help everywhere. So I'm willing to buy that he'll get a feature role and probably increase on price just because of that, which is a good thing. And maybe that turns into like Rashad White last year, right? Where everyone was like, he doesn't look that good. He's not explosive. He's on a bad team. And then all of a sudden, the team's a little better than we think. He gets everything. He's getting pass catching. It's this dump off stuff. There's definitely some surprise upside there. I think the other one I'm kind of really into is Chuba. He's popped on a lot of this stuff. I think he's like, I think he's kind of shown us through his career he's pretty good. Every time he runs, he pops up well in these advanced stats. He's pretty explosive. I mean, he like the Oklahoma State rushing leader of all time.
Yeah, and I don't know
Guys,
if a
good.
rushing leader, but maybe because I think he played, yeah, like a lot of years, and he was just racking up yards. I think if he would have left the year before he declared, I think he put up like a 2,000 yard season or something like that. He also was he's like a sprinter, like a high level sprinter. So you can kind of see it in the way he runs too. Like he has that burst that not that many guys have. So yeah, I like Chuba a lot.
Yeah, I'm into him. I mean, I'm not going to be going like crazy overweight. There's definitely some risk that Carolina adds someone there, but I think they have so many other problems to fix first. And I mean, yeah, I think he was just good enough to justify keeping him around, right? And maybe he turns into Rashad White. Like, does Dave Canales just use him the same way they used White? What's really the difference?
That's a good point. Yeah, I haven't it's interesting too because yeah, like I think he's a solid enough pass catcher. Like he's shown he's a competent pass catcher, but he's almost like the reverse Rashad White, where like Rashad White's rushing efficiency was absolutely horrendous, and his passing game work is amazing. So it's like, but I think there is I agree with the role though. He can do this a similar role. Maybe it's a little bit flipped where his rushing is better and his pass catching is just like okay. But I do think he has a path to like a relevant season for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going like crazy on any of these guys, but also the price on them are fairly cheap. Um, so I'm willing to take some stands. I think like Pacheco, I'm a little less willing to take a stand, right?
Well,
Because
it's cost, right? Yeah.
yeah, he's up in the third round. That's kind of a lot for a guy that really doesn't catch passes on a team that doesn't particularly want to run the ball. I just see that cost coming down at the very least. I think he's a pretty good player. I'm just not really interested in buying right now. Brian Robinson, I probably underrated for a while. I think he's like kind of good as well. It depends on the cost there for me. New staff, so I don't really want to be super in on him. I don't think I'm clicking AJ Dillon or Josh Jacobs too much though. Those are uninteresting names.
Um, yeah, I like B Rob. Like I said, I think most of us in this sphere were too low on him. I don't know if it was Pat or I think it was Pat who was kind of pushing back and saying like he's the starting running back on for a team, and the coaching staff has really shown that they like him. So um, I think he showed us a lot more of the pass game role than we kind of thought of him. We thought he was the early down grinder only, and he had a couple games with some big receiving stat lines. I think part of that is the Sam Howell experience where he's just catching a shit ton of dump offs because Sam Howell kind of sucks. But I think whatever, at least he's shown he can do it. Like that's a lot more than you can say for a lot of early down grinders. So
Yeah, I think receiving for a lot of running backs like is just catching dump offs, and I
yeah,
don't think that
100%.
has to be a bad thing, right? Like that's what Rashad White did this year, and it was good. Like it helped the Buccaneers too. It's not like it's just a fantasy thing. Like they just needed that weapon there.
Yeah,
There's
it's just
very
it's
few
we
good
talk
route running running backs.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about like reliability in terms of like success rate and that kind of stuff, but there's different kinds. Like Kyron Williams is the perfect example, right? Like his best skill is just he can do everything reliably. Like it's not like he's an amazing rusher, he's an amazing pass catcher. He's probably is an amazing pass blocker, but it's like it's just those all those things together. Coaches trust him, and he will be on the field and can kind of just accumulate yards. So yeah, any guys that kind of fall into that range, which I think a lot of these guys are those type of guys where it's just like
Mhm.
coaches are going to trust them and they're going to get a reliable workload that whatever that maybe doesn't win you your league, but it could in best ball definitely helps just get you through and give you usable weeks. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's not exciting, but I think if you find an edge in picking these running backs out of the like 60 to 100 tier, that opens so many doors with how people are playing these days, given that there are so many guys down there right now. Like if you can hit on that, I think you land yourself in a nice spot right now.
yeah, I mean, just hit some singles, right? They don't all have to be home runs, and the home runs really do usually come. Well, Josh Jacobs last year came from that like middle dead zone running back range, but a lot of the times it's rookies, right? From you're taking whatever later on, round 13, 14, 15 plus. So those are the guys that are really gonna like shoot you up. But you just need those guys to get you through to the week, whatever, into the playoffs, and just help you survive, no dead roster spots and that kind of stuff. So I think you're right that it is valuable to find these guys that can just give you a slight edge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I think there's still work for me to do on this. I'm a little ashamed of myself for being excited for like looking into these guys because they're not the exciting players, but at the same time, it's like bell curve memeing. It feels like bell curve memeing the whole industry where like everyone's like, don't draft this guy. He's an early down grinder. No one wants him. And the casuals are like, he's going to get 250 touches. And then this model's like, he's going to get 250 touches. Just go for it,
You
man.
gotta tweet that after this, please.
Yeah. I'll try and keep that one in mind. But yeah, the whole thing is like, uh, it feels kind of disgusting to model this stuff. I'm not going to lie. But if it's an edge, it's an edge. I just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think something that I've talked about with Mathology and Tyler, and we've had a couple funny named shows with fish names and bonk bro names and whatnot, but it's us two in particular, and the bubble that we're in on fantasy Twitter and ship chasing, etc. I do think the group think kind of gets overwhelming at times, and just kind of like we hammer home these like kind of things. It's just like, okay, if you go outside of this and you post a screenshot on Twitter with the players that we don't like it's like gross and it's just
Yeah.
whatever. We're gonna make fun of you. So I do think like the general mindset is very good, and obviously like everyone's extremely sharp. But I think there is an edge in kind of not having shame in that way of just being like, kind of whatever. I don't know if it's boomer mindset or I don't know what the mindset is, but just fading the touts and fading the like players that you're just kind of going along with because of the group think. And I
Yeah,
think this is a way to do that, honestly. Like it's just like, okay, these guys are not sexy. They're not gonna when I post a screenshot, they're not gonna look. No one's gonna give me a like and give me a repost, but they'll get me there. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that is I'm really happy you said that and think about it the same way because I've been having that same thought, completely kind of different realm, but I've been thinking that same thing for like 3 months about CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. And what was I doing not clicking more Stroud or Texans and continuously clicking Jonathan Mingo and Bryce Young? Like what was my brain doing? And all of football is a super uncertain game, especially around rookies, right? We really don't know what these guys are going to be. We like to think we do, but in actuality, like it's pretty hard to project them. And I went into these drafts and I looked and I was like, Bryce Young was the number one pick. Houston didn't even want CJ Stroud. There's no way he succeeds. And I absolutely should have had my exposure like 60-40 at most if I wanted to pick a favorite there. But really, I should have just been like, screw it, picking both, whatever. They could be good. Because we just saw with Stroud, right? Turns out he's awesome. He's so good. And I'm sitting here like with none in Dynasty because I just never clicked him in the fourth round for some reason. That was that was very stupid of me. I think that's my biggest mess up last year.
Yeah, and it also kind of goes along with it's like, yeah, it's pushed back in a different way, but push like this is pushed back against kind of like the hive mind of a very sharp group for sure, but it's there's always right, there's always something that we get too into. That's one part of it. And I think also like in best ball drafts, oftentimes you fall when you're just drafting 300, 500 teams, you just get into such a rhythm and you have the guys that you feel comfy and cozy with and you just click in the same ranges every time. And so then you end up kind of with the same structures, with the same players. And so like even like what you're talking about with some of these guys where it's like it feels kind of gross, but there's some numbers, whether it's completely fleshed out to back it up. Um, I think that is very valuable to just like push yourself out those spots and always in a draft, just being like, okay, here's the guy that like for me, it's like Deontay Johnson. I'm just love Deontay Johnson or Hollywood Brown, or like there's guys where I'm just like, they're undervalued. But it's like at a certain point, you have to just look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, who like whatever. This guy is whatever, like a Najee type, where he's just like, okay, it feels gross. I've never liked Najee in the whole time he's been in the league, but situation or other data that backs it up, I need to just uh, my old football coach used to say, eat the frog. Which is like do the thing that you don't want to do. So yeah, I really
Yeah.
appreciate you walking us through your model. We'll have to have you on again to if you update it or if you have any other fun stuff. Definitely would love to have you on again. But any other thoughts before we hop into a draft?
Um, I think the one thing, and this is like a partially big take, so I'm open to anyone telling me this is the dumbest thing they've ever heard. But I think the one thing that always messes with my brain, right, is that in like sports betting, baiting the public is not a thing. It just doesn't work because like books do not care about public action. And if people tell you they do, they're wrong, right? They physically do not care. Drafts like Underdog ADP takes everyone's information into account. So it like there's going to be a wide range on some of this stuff, and I don't want to sit here and say like ADP is terrible, don't listen to any of it, because we have good evidence that like ADP value and stuff matters. But I think like the precision of it can be pretty off, and that was like I think to the Young and Stroud groupthink point, I really got caught up in the like Bryce Young's pretty special. They're building something good. Like I believe in this coaching staff. Houston, just made these bad trades. What are they doing? Like, just don't listen to all that. Like, just split it. Everyone thinks they know. Nobody knows. We're all gonna lose anyway. Davis is always right. Like that's the evergreen sentence. We're all gonna lose anyway. So just admit it and like take some of the dusty guys you don't want to click.
Yeah, no, I mean it's like something in Dynasty that is similar to that, where it's like you just think you have a guy where you're just like, okay, I know this guy's going to be amazing, or I prefer this guy 5 picks ahead in the rookie draft, and it's like you're just levered. Like even if you are right, sometimes you're just leveraging against yourself. Like you don't know everything, even if you're the best fantasy football player on earth and you have all the knowledge, you have all the ball knowing everything. It doesn't make sense to play it that way. Like if there's like there are times to push your chips in, but there's other times where you need to kind of check yourself. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard to do that. It's very hard to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a super common thing, especially in Dynasty, of people overestimating their edge. Like, there's a lot of studies that show you're never more than a 33% favorite, even if you have the absolute nuts of a team. If you have Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, you've got Anthony Richardson and Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're going to have injuries. You're going to get unlucky. That playoff week, it's going to happen. Just you just got to deal with that, right? I'm going to pull the draft board or the draft up here as we're waiting for it to fill.
Okay,
Um,
sweet.
but you're going to get unlucky. So just prepare yourself for that, right? Like even if you're right more often than you're not, like even if your takes are good, you're still probably not doubling the field in your win rate. I think it's a hard thing to conceptualize because we think like I'm a good fantasy football player, I should win. But the reality is you're always a dog to win. So
Yeah, it's something. I mean, I only started playing Dynasty in 2022. So like I'm only a few years into it. So
You
I
dove
know
in then.
about
Oh my
everything.
goodness.
What?
You dove in. You you
Oh
really
brother,
like
I
it.
know, man. What I work you said you work from home. I work from home. Like um I moved to a new place. So like all I do is go to the gym and play fantasy football. So
Props.
yes, I dove all the way in for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, some Bindles 20 Bindles 2022. My logo had the Bindles 2022 on it.
That's great.
Um, but just lost my train of thought. But something that I've learned is really, yeah, like you said, like you always kind of just want to be whatever betting, like setting yourself up for success down the road and not just thinking you know everything. Like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
going to take Quentin Johnson every time over Jordan Addison. That's an example from last year where I think I took way too much Quentin Johnson over Jordan Addison because I thought, oh, this is the upside shot. Like his profile's better, et cetera, et cetera. And like now I think I have one share of Jordan Addison. And I got out of a lot of Quentin Johnson before he went to pretty much zero.
Fuck you.
Um, but like that's one example. And the other example is just like you said, like people go all in, they trade they trade their all their picks for the next 2 years. And that's how a lot of orphans are created. And even for me, I think trading, I knew this or I thought I knew this, but like I would trade away my future first in a startup to get like two elite quarterbacks. Because I'm like, okay, well, elite quarterback, elite tight end, like that's where you make your money. That's really where I want to push in my chips on every team if I can. And sometimes those teams fall apart, right?
Mhm.
Like you are a little bit thinner. Like, yes, it'll probably those having those guys will raise your floor and your ceiling, but it's not foolproof, right? Like shit still happens. Obviously we see quarterbacks get hurt. Um, I had way too much Mark Andrews and he got hurt. So that hurts. But then you also don't have your future pick and you're fucked. So just you want to make smarter bets and don't go I know that sounds like a simple thing to say but don't go all in, but in both aspects of like in rookie drafts and just when you're building your team you don't ever really want to go all in one way or the other. The same thing goes for tanking too. Like obviously you want to tank to get the highest pick, which I think people don't do soon enough. Like this year, I really was like, okay, if my team's ass 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the season, I'm doing it. But then once you've done that, people just still continue to keep that tanking or rebuilding mindset. It's like, okay, well, once you've accrued all these picks, once you've accrued all these young guys, don't just sit there and just do that another year. Try now you can move your chips in, right? And still have some uh picks and stuff to back you up. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think my typical approach to Dynasty, or at least the way I've talked about it, I don't know if I really play it enough, but it's like how I like to think about it is I either want the worst team in the league, the worst team in the playoffs, or a bye. Those are the only three things I want. Because if you take one of these, like you think it's a monster, but you don't get a bye, then you're already just a huge dog to win the league, right? You have what is it like a 17% chance, maybe your team's strong. You still have to go win 3 games in a row, and odds on you're going to get unlucky. Uh, and when that happens, like you're just kind of out of luck. So I'd rather just take a bad team into the 6th seed and luck box my way to one championship every like 8 years instead of whatever the actual odds are, like 1 of 6, right? But have like future capital to go build my team up faster and actually make it competitive the following year.
It's just yeah, you're just it allows you to always be flexible, right? Like if you
Yeah,
do want if you do get into the season and you do want to tank, then you can do it. If you do right there, I'm not saying never push your chips in. If you
yeah,
have a first and it's a late one and you're like, okay, screw it, like I can get a guy for maybe a slightly below market deal, like okay, do it. It's fine. Like it's not like you can never do it. But
yeah.
I think something Jacob was talking about was oh, did we just fill?
Oh, we filled. We're getting to the end of our dynasty talk here.
Okay,
We got a
sweet.
1-6. No influencer 101 for us.
We went an hour, which sounds about right for two guys who love
I'm
Dynasty.
verbose. That was about what I expected.
I think Jacob last offseason was talking about how, yeah, like if you get a buy, that's really the thing you're buying for. Like if you can get a buy, that's like the most important thing. But then after that, you almost want to be trading away some of your bets. Like I think I had a couple teams where I had like Devontae or I forget if it was Diggs, but like wherever, some of those type guys on teams where had a buy, and I'm like, okay, well now is the time to trade him for whatever, a Jaden Reed or a first or something, where it's like, what in a 3 week sprint, how much of a difference really is it? Or even whatever, 2 game sprint. It's
Mhm.
not that much of a difference. So, and it's hard. Like I think I was trying to like talk to some people like in the chat, like that I'm friends with and stuff about like, okay, like, yeah, like, hey, should I, oh, we're on the clock. Okay.
Real quick. Who do you want to take?
Um,
I'm fine with anything here.
I mean, I'm fine with Brees. Brees
Let's do it.
or yeah, let's go Brees.
Nice and easy. Nice and easy to start. We'll get spicy later.
Yeah, we'll get spicy later. I'm assuming we're both Brees guys.
Big Breeze fan. I have a lot of Breeze. Won me a couple leagues. I'm a big Breeze fan.
How much Brees do you have in Dynasty?
I think I have him Dynasty. I want to say I have him on like 3 of my 9 Dynasty teams or whatever.
Oh, really? Okay, sick.
I went big on him last year. Like, I mean, it's literally what he did, right? He can go catch 10 passes out of the backfield, and all of a sudden you have access to points that other people don't. There are what 4 people, 5 people right now that can do that. I'm 100% like I will just jam in on those kinds of backs repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about explosive, like he's the definition of explosive. Even coming off a torn ACL and he catches passes, like I think he has easily could be the RB1 with CMC getting older and whatever shit happens. So it makes sense he's going 5 overall, but I'm glad I got in when he wasn't as expensive as he is now. When there was a little bit of that buy low moment, like kind of in August when they signed Dalvin Cook, I was going all in, and that felt real nice.
Yeah,
So
how funny that one is in hindsight, right? Oh no, they signed 27-year-old Dalvin Cook, who's just coming off his worst year. Like he's not going to be the RB1. I got a lot of crap because I took him like a round ahead of ADP in my home league with all my college buddies. And I do something like that basically every year because I'm cocky that I can always beat them. And then I did beat them. So they're not going to hear the end of that one. Like
let,
I'm,
let your nuts hang, okay?
yeah, exactly. This one coming up here is scares me a little bit. I don't like the second round right now. I don't know about your thoughts.
The second round feels horrendous right now. Like I think I forget who I was talking with, but I think the third round I almost feel better about the players in the third round than in the second round.
Yeah,
Um, Especially Debo and Ayuk just scare the shit out of me because it's like I get it, but it's literally purely based on the fact that they're in the Super Bowl. Okay. We're talking about Debo and Ayuk. Who do you lean here? You're the
I'm a
guest.
Debo guy. I think
Okay.
his weekly upside is bigger,
Let's
and
go
I think
Debo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's knock that in. Yeah, I think Debo's. I think Ayuk's a really great player. I think he fits people's typical mold of what they consider to be a really good receiver, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But I do think it is not the weekly upside necessarily that Debo kind of brings with the massive yak potential that he has. Like he can break any play, and Ayuk can kind of do that on routes, but that requires the defense to not play these shell defenses over the top. And we saw some defenses do that, whereas Debo, it's like really hard to keep him uninvolved. Yak is typically unstable, so it's not a type of player I'm super into typically, but Debo has shown like year over year he can do this. I'm fine just continuing to believe in an immense talent.
Yeah, I mean he's the him like he's the one guy where it's just like you kind of have to throw out your model for like how do you really account for the got that dog in him in Debo? yeah, like whatever. 2 years ago, he had the crazy year. Last year, he had a little bit of a down year, and then this year again, he had a pretty crazy year. Not as crazy as 2 years ago, but whatever. We know the offense is going to be good. And
Mhm.
I do agree. I prefer Debo over Ayuk just for, like you said, the spike week potential. And then Brees, back to your conversation about Brees and like your home league and buying him off the Dalvin Cook stuff. I feel like that's the ultimate, like, do you know ball, like, measure to me, at least during this season. I was like, okay, if you're out on Brees Hall because of Dalvin Cook signing, like, I'm sorry, like, that just doesn't, the cognitive dissonance there just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my best friends in that league was out on him, and he has a like between me and him, he is the worst at picking running backs I've ever seen. Um, I'll take a pause here to see who we want to go with.
Okay, let's see.
Got sniped. I know you're a neighbors guy as well. I kind of would have liked that one. I'm open to grabbing a Waddle or an Evans or maybe someone else here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Waddle, Waddle or a quarterback, but probably lean Waddle or Evans. Yeah,
Okay, we'll do a little Waddle.
I
I
think
am
Waddle is like same thing, like spike weeks, spike week king.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, what was the Sam Sherman tweet? Like he led the league in small injuries that kept him out of 2 quarters of a game or something like that.
yeah,
Like he just ran a really small amount of routes for no apparent reason this year, but he was still really good and he's still an awesome player. Like I think we just kind of assume he's going to keep doing that.
yeah. I mean, Dynasty, it's a little bit different where it's like he has a little bit of contingent value with Tyreek, I guess. And we know he's good, but it's not really a bet I'm super willing to make in that in that range. In Dynasty, in like that fourth round, there's other guys I prefer. Like if you give me an elite tight end like McBride or Andrews or someone like that, where it's like they're gonna score more and or similarly, and you get them at a premium position, um, I'll definitely take that. But in best ball, I'm almost the opposite, where it's like I'm willing to just kind of the same bet as Debo. Just this, we know this dude is good. Maybe his like expected points and everything don't look great, but he can go for 40 any game. So
Yeah. He's
I like,
fast. You're just betting on week 17. He gets 8 catches for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns because he broke 275 yarders. That's all you need. Like, when you say it like that, it's actually a really simple game, and I can't believe I didn't win Best Ball Mania last year.
um, yeah, it reminds me of what you were talking about with like the what is it, the IQ curve meme or whatever, where it's
The
like,
bell curve meme, yeah.
yeah, the bell curve meme, where it's just like, dude, dude can ball, run fast, like.
Yeah, like is fast. No, his route targets per route run is this, and his target share is this, and he couldn't do this, and dudes runs fast. Like that's all you have to do sometimes.
Exactly. Let's see. I want to just check the chat really quick before we're up. I guess we're gonna be up, so never mind. Let's
This
dive back in.
this middle of the positions are kind of tough turnaround. We got Dave in the chat here in the 7 hole. He says so. He's right up against us. We got to be a little careful that we don't give up too much of our alpha, but I think we're doing a pretty good job wasting his time, so he can't snipe us too easily.
100%.
Uh,
Okay. Lamar here is pretty interesting to me.
I like a Lamar. You know, I was gonna say I'd like a McBride, but what I think I really like is we take a falling Lamar and then grab a Mark Andrews when we come back. What do you think about
Yeah.
that idea?
Let's go Lamar. Let's go 2-time MVP. I think this is a pretty good price.
We'll celebrate the MVP winner.
Yeah, 100%. Um, Zay Flowers potential situation going on. I think this is a little bit early for me for him, but yeah, I don't know. It's the thing with Zay Flowers, morally and or whatever happened aside. I think he benefited so much from Mark Andrews being out this year. And I do think when Mark Andrews comes back, that he will be the number one still. So it's like he's fine, but it's not like I think we're not taking that into account as much as we should. So
Yeah, I feel similarly. I think, he's probably not super overpriced. I'll probably take him when he falls for the most part. Like, I think one thing I do kind of want to bet on, at least early here, is the Ravens defense regressing some with Mike McDonald leaving. That was a incredibly, incredibly good defense, and it probably stifled pass attempts. I was already in on Lamar and Andrews, so I'll just double down, I guess, and hope that they keep throwing more. But Andrews was on a really good pace before he got hurt. Lamar played super well all year. I don't really see a reason we can't continue that. It makes me want to like be even on Zay, I would say, with the moral stuff aside. I don't really want to click him right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary at this point, right when it first
Yeah.
happens. We don't know what's going to happen. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's fine, but he's not a guy I'm like targeting. One guy I'm not targeting is CJ Stroud. I've had a few clips that I put up about that with myself and Emo Cowboy talking about it, but it's not a bet I like to make this early when I can get I think pretty similar quarterback production in the like not just nuts outcome seasons out of guys that are going whatever 50 picks 60 picks later. So especially with like Jaden Daniels going as late as he is right now, it's like I think I don't know if I would bet straight up that he would score more points, but I think there's a lot of outcomes where he does score more points than CJ Stroud. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in the boat. I think it's kind of same as Burrow last year. They're great quarterbacks. They're not the best fantasy assets, and they really need high end outcomes to be worth this kind of cost.
yeah, it's the difference between, like you were saying, real football and fantasy football.
We got sniped on not only Mark Andrews, but basically every other tight end I've ever seen. Help me out. What do we do now?
I like Rome here, or honestly, I don't know if I think we're probably wide receiver just because I don't want to get behind on wide receiver.
I'm into Rome.
Probably,
I got no problem with that.
I like Rome. I think he'll get drafted pretty highly, and other than his dad being an absolute psycho on Twitter, I think he's going to be pretty solid. So it's a fine price for him based on draft capital projection and everything. So
yeah, I'm in the same boat there. All right, what do you think we're going to come up with next? Because it looks like we might be having this middle tier here. I'm curious on your thought as we get going now, because there's some guys here.
Yeah, this is a really gross range, honestly. So we have Lamar at quarterback, we have Breece Hall at running back, we have Debo, Waddle, and Rome. So I think we're pacing at wide receiver. I think we have to probably take one here, unless if Kincaid falls, I'd entertain that. I think that's probably where I would lean. I just don't want to get behind at wide receiver. Yeah. What are you feeling here?
I think that's fair. I'm pretty into Christian Kirk at this price. I think he's been like underrated for years, actually. Um, Kincaid, I'm not a huge believer, but I don't know if I'm just doubling down on not being a believer last year also. And then, I did just do a whole section on how Alvin Kamara might be like the best pick, and he might be sitting here for us. Now, I just said that, and our nice friend Dave is sitting in the 7 hole in front of us. So I might have just walked us into some trouble there.
I was going to say, the real pro streamer move is to hype him up and be like, okay, we're going to pick him here. And
yeah, I'm sorry. I said Kamara, I meant Eckler.
And then have him. Yeah, I was going to say, we got the private chat. You just got to be like, okay, I'm pushing him the other way.
He does us a favor and he takes Pickens. So thank you, Dave. But
okay. Out of these three receivers, if we don't go Kincaid, who do you like? Probably Hopkins or Brian Thomas for me. Kind of like Hopkins, honestly, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't care too much about ADP. I think Hopkins is way underpriced. I know you've talked about it, and so I won't repeat you, but you're right. Just click the button. The guy just had a great season. Is this just not Mike Evans from last year?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really fall off at all. And I think with wide receivers, yeah, you just have to keep it rolling until they show they're falling off. They're going to keep going. And Hopkins, I think, is still, I don't know what his target share was. I can pull it up, but it was still whatever, high 20s. And from the eye test as well, he still looked pretty good. Kincaid, quickly, I was like the way we felt about Najee was the way I felt about Kincaid. I just was like, ew, gross, like never touch, never draft in a rookie draft. Didn't think he was that good. I think the dynasty brain in me, when you look at it from like I don't think he's like the type of tight end where he's like super, super athletic, where he's just like a Gronk or like one of those guys where he can just do that. But when you look at rookie seasons, I think we're kind of underrating because of Laporta and because of what McBride did as a second year player, like how good his rookie year really was, even um, with Dawson Knox being there. So I think it's a pretty fine price for the fact that there is a little bit of ambiguity with Diggs there. He could leave. I don't think he's going to leave. And the fact that he was still a rookie and had all things considered, a very, very strong rookie season for a tight end. So,
Yeah, I think I'm probably underrating him a little bit. I definitely got into some arguments on the internet about him last year against Kyle Pitts, and I'm glad that people don't hold me to my receipts because I'm not a large content creator or really a content creator at all. Um, but I'm probably a little too low on him. I liked him coming out. I just think the prices have been pretty high ever since, right? And so you're just betting on you're just expressing a lot of certainty on being like this guy being good, right? I think I'd rather take that and just put it on Brock Bowers that we get like we get something bigger. And maybe that's, it could be a boat and it just turns into Dalton Kincaid. Um, I'm okay with doing that for now, I think.
yeah, no, I mean, I think Brock Bowers is an interesting case because yeah, I mean, right now he's going okay. Well, we're on the clock, so you go first. What are your thoughts? Where would you lean here? We talked
I
up our boy
mean,
Najee.
we did talk up our boy Najee, so I'm not opposed to clicking Najee. I'm also not opposed to clicking Brian Thomas. I think he's going to be an exciting young guy. I don't love having the two rookie receivers early, but it is what it is. What do you think?
I lean Brian Thomas slightly.
All right, then we'll do it. I'll
Because
let
I
the
think
clock.
then we're pretty solid. We have 5 wide receivers, right? So I think there's some good RB value that will fall to us in the next few rounds, and we can also load up on rookies later. So Brees gives us an anchor where I feel a little bit more comfortable pushing it. So yeah.
Yeah. I kind of been liking these anchor RBs early, especially these first round RBs. I'm actually pretty out on everyone but Achan in the second round now that I look at it.
Yeah.
But just having one of them where one week, like every week, you're liable to just get 30 points immediately, right? And you don't need the other, you can just piece together that RB2. Like that's the style you want to build with this anchor RB, right? And it just feels so comfortable having one of these electric pass catching types up at top.
So let's recap it really quick. We have Lamar at quarterback, just kinged second time MVP. Brees Hall, our the love of our life, outside of our significant others. Debo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, two guys who are very good at ball and can score 30 points in any single game. And then we have Roma Dunes, who his dad is crazy. Please don't come and find me. DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to be 32, I believe, but I mean, I think his skill set is aging well, and his numbers peripherals didn't fall off. So pretty happy with him at that price. And then Brian Thomas Jr. kind of similar. This is kind of the theme of our draft, but big guy, run fast, probably going to get drafted high. That's a good bet to make, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, right. You just hope it ends up in a good spot and he shoots up 2 rounds and you get to brag about the ADP CLV we get. That's really the goal of doing all these, right?
The Sklansky bucks we get.
Sklansky bucks are important.
Um, yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, because I think Brian Thomas, from what I'm seeing, I mean, I think his absolute floor is like late 20s. And I think he's probably going to go higher than that based on pending testing and everything. But I mean, he seems like the kind of guy where he's going to test pretty well. So
Yeah.
Jaguars I've seen as a landing spot for him at 17. That would be that would be pretty juicy if they let Ridley walk and draft him.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. We got a very green board coming up to us, so give me your thoughts here.
I think I like. Let's see, B Rob. I think I like B Rob. Is there another running back you prefer in this range to him? I know we were talking about Pollard, B Rob or Pollard probably.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, this is a pretty cheap Pollard. It's a round past. I'm not opposed to that, but I also like B-Rob here.
yeah, let's go Pollard. I haven't gotten any Pollard so far in any of my drafts, so
There
I'm
we
fine
go.
with it.
Yeah, you get the cheap one, and hey, maybe the foot was the problem, right?
Yeah, that was another guy I think all of us were super into last year, and it just tears your soul out the way that it ran out.
I was really lucky with him. Like, I mean, it's not lucky process wise, but it was just lucky in that I just never got builds where I could get him. He either went early when I wanted to take him, or was just like fell when I already had CMC or something, and I really didn't want to double up on those two so much.
Sure.
So I ended up like right at the field with him. So I felt bad when everyone was like watching him, you know, just suck all season, frankly. Or struggle, I shouldn't say. He didn't really suck, but he struggled. And I was just sitting there like, this is not hurting me. I am fine. Thank God.
You dodged a bullet on that one. Yeah,
I got really lucky.
I don't think I had a crazy amount. Just yeah, I didn't have a crazy amount. I think I was slightly above the field, like 10% or 11% or something. So I did take him in my home league though. That was rough. Where I was like, oh damn, like yeah, same thing. Like I won this year. The year before that, I think I had like the most points for by like 300 points, and I lost in the playoffs. So I'm like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. And then Pollard just was killing me the whole year. Only thing that saved me was I picked up Puka and Kyron off waivers. So that's pretty much an auto win in a home league. So
Yeah, I didn't manage either in my home league. I managed Tank Dell, I had Mark Andrews on that same team, and Cooper Cup.
oof.
It was a really lucky home league win for me this year, frankly.
Home league, it's so much about like just waivers and like there's
Yeah,
edges that we're used to grinding that like the average home league guy isn't, and I think that helps a ton. Like cover you off even if you have injuries and stuff. So
yeah. Fortunately, for my friends, they have lives. I don't though, so I'm happy to just go take their money.
we'll just spend our time building models and managing a copious amount of dynasty leagues.
All right, coming up again. Where are you at on Javante? That's the one I gotta know.
Oh, Javante. I think obviously coming off like second year off an ACL, I think we should be probably buying into him a little bit more, but it is one that feels a little bit gross. Also, Jaleel McLaughlin, I know he's tiny, but he did look very, very good in his limited touches. Um, I think probably the quarterback situation is going to be either a rookie or someone gross. And I think they like running the ball. So I think he's fine. I think he's fine at this cost, basically, is what I'm saying. He's not a target, but what pick are we at right now? It's small. I can't see.
102. 102. He's about 6 picks
Okay. I
past me.
mean, I probably lean Javante or one of those three receivers at the top. So whatever, if you have a lean of one of those receivers, then go one of those guys.
I'm
Jacoby.
gonna I'm gonna no ball. I'm a big Jacoby guy. I think he's actually just good. Um, I also kind of like getting a little bit more of a floor at receiver with Rome and Brian Thomas, just in case they start out a little slower. I am also just not that into Javante. I kind of never have been. That type of profile where it's like based around just being this really good tackle avoider. I don't see that as like that valuable because if you're not producing like above and beyond when you avoid these tackles, like that doesn't really help, right? At least in my mind, right?
Not
If
in
you're just avoiding
fantasy. Yeah.
tackles, yeah, if you're just avoiding tackles and getting average yards, what happens when you stop avoiding the tackles? Then you're just below average.
We
Um,
kind of saw that this year, right? Like when
yeah,
he
I think you're right about the 2 years off the ACL. Like he's probably someone I should click. taking him past ADP is probably a good call, but I'm pretty into Jaleel. I think I don't really care about the small profile. I'll take the home run hitter, especially later in best ball, and you just hope you don't get it too wrong.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm into both. Like I think just Javante, yeah, I think it's more he's coming second year off the ACL. So I think that's probably why he looks so bad. You don't want to catch the falling knife, but I think he's still 23. He's still super young. So I think probably he'll bounce back in terms of whatever, just being a little bit more explosive. He does still catch passes. He didn't, obviously Jaleel kind of saps that a little bit. Um, but I think Sean Payton likes running the ball. I think they're going to be a more run-centric offense without Russ. So I think he's fine. But then yeah, I'm into Jaleel too at cost. I think like Sean Payton also loves his little gadgety type guys who are explosive. I think they're both fine at ADP. What, he's 95 and Jaleel is what, like 150s right now, or is he moving up? I'm not
I think
sure.
he's moving up. The leg up
The leg up
leg up
bump is
bump
is
is kind of
happening.
coming through. He's kind of jumping, but he falls all the way back to us. So I mean, we just gotta click him now.
I feel like
We've
we got to
spent a
click
whole
him now. Yeah, that's
spend a whole round hyping him up. We've hyped up too many running backs to not click him in at this point.
pretty crazy too, because yeah, we basically got two ninth round picks right there.
Yeah, I mean, you
Because I
take it,
mean,
right?
yeah, I'm perfectly fine with Jacoby in that range. Even I'm fine with Jacoby over Romeo Dobbs, over Sutton. I mean, even
Uh,
probably up a little bit higher. Probably not over Brian Thomas and Watson just because of their spike week potential, but I think that's a really good value right there for both those guys. So
Yeah, I'm a Romeo Dobbs hater. I just don't think he's that special, and I think he keeps getting there on touchdowns. And hey, maybe that's his skill set. Like I try to base everything around analytics, but be open to like we can't capture, certain things. Maybe he's just a really good red zone threat, and I'm not evaluating that well. But like, I think he is just any wide receiver three in the NFL, and he kind of has the benefit of being there, right? Like he's in Green Bay. I think if he's somewhere else, like he's nothing. But I like a couple of the other Green Bay guys right now, so I'm pretty fine with just fading Dobbs straight up.
what's your where does your fandom lie? Who's your team?
Oh, I am. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate after this year, but I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I was born outside the city, so
Okay, sick.
it's it was an exciting Super Bowl run, and now I am hurt, and I see Yosh cursing out the pack in the bottom. I'm also a Wisconsin Badger at heart, so I got a soft spot for the pack.
Are you from Wisconsin?
I'm not. I'm from outside of Philadelphia originally. I just ended up going to school there.
Oh, sick. Okay. The stash makes a lot more sense now. I'm gonna be honest. I went to school in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so I knew a bunch of people from Wisconsin and Minnesota,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm lived up in Hickville for a long time. So yeah, I like the stash. It's very Wisconsin. I feel like you need a spotted cow or something while you're drafting.
Oh, oh, a spotted cow would do me wonders. You unfortunately cannot get those outside of the state, and they're very strict about that. But the UP should still belong to Wisconsin is one of my stronger held takes. And we're kind of being cowards not taking it back, but one day.
Come and take it. Isn't that the famous
Yeah.
famous quote?
Yeah.
Let's see. Grew up in Langhorne. Is
Langhorne.
that
I'd have to check where Langhorne is. David looks like he's from outside the city as well. So I grew up on the main line, David. I don't want to dox myself too bad, but I guess I'm pretty good at doxing myself in the first place, so it's not the end of the world. If
okay?
you
We're
have my
on the
Discord
clock.
name, feel free to.
Who are your faves in this range?
Um, let's see. I mean, I am a Rashid Shaheed truther. I think that guy's good. I don't hate Ty Chandler here. I like Dontavian Wicks as well, but it's a little early. Do you have any thoughts?
I like Brooks or Shaheed probably. Judy is gross, but also probably gonna bounce back probably from what he was last year. So did we time out
Um,
Brooks or did you take
I clicked the star, but then we timed out on him.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. I think it fits the build nicely, right? You get hopefully a late season bump from him. He's supposed to be pretty nice guy from what I pretty nice player from what I can tell. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting a little bit of ACL discount, or we were getting a little bit of ACL discount, but then once again, leg up ranks, and Pat hyping him up is pushing him up again. So I think we have a pretty solid room though, because we have Brees, Pollard, and Javante, so we can take the chance on Brooks if he's a little bit gets ramped up slowly. So
yeah, I'm not a Judy believer. I think he's just fine. Like he's just a wide receiver too. I
he's
think
just
you're
fine.
right
Yeah,
that he feels bad, and I should probably click him, but I don't think he's anything super special.
that's pretty much exactly my thoughts. I took him in a startup recently, and I just felt I was purely out of desperation because I had no wide receivers other than Amon Ra and AJ Brown, and I was just like, I need somebody to fill my flex. But I mean, I don't. We say this. I say this like whispering, like it can't be worse than last year. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much the only case for him, is that it can't be as worse as last year. But I don't think he's. I don't think he's good. No, I don't think he's good.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the takes that I've been trying to craft is like players can just have specific skill sets and that's fine. Like that's not a bad thing. And it doesn't mean they're bad. Like Gabe Davis is a good deep threat, and that's just not that valuable for most fantasy contests. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
but we're just really bad at like recognizing that between players and how it affects fantasy.
Um, I do think we're flexible, but probably wide receiver. It's just Judy and Thielen are the grossest picks ever. So if we do want to go running back first and then get some rookies and stuff later on, who do you like, Herbert?
I'm a Khalil Herbert stan, so I think we go for this one, and then maybe we try and pick up some other receivers in a bit.
Who knows?
I
Maybe
think
all the Judy FUD will push him to our next pick.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully he keeps falling down because then I'll definitely take him. Yeah, I don't know that's a tough one, but I think Khalil Herbert is actually a good running back. I think he's very explosive from what we've seen. He's a small guy. He showed us a little bit of pass catching last year, and he's always graded out well in some of these success rate things I've worked up. So I think he has the skill set to kind of just, even if it's like half a grinder, like a little bit of pass catching work, I think he has the skill set to like pay it off pretty well.
Yeah, we were talking about explosive guys. Like I think yeah, even if he gets like whatever, the 60-40 split or something with Roshan, I think that's probably where it'll end up. Like Roshan will get some work.
Mhm.
Um, I also think that yeah, I think he's a pretty competent pass catcher. Can break some long ones, and I think Fields, just given the nature of how Fields plays, it's not very conducive to pass catching for running backs. So if it is Caleb, I think I would feel a little bit better about him. Just whatever, even if it's 10 more passes he would catch or something, not a ton, but it would give him a little bit more whatever, a little bit more juice in the passing game. So yeah, I like it there. And I didn't really want to pick Judy, so I'm good for anything that's not Judy. So
Yeah, I mean, and he stops falling. I mean, I think we would have had to click him if he got back to
we
us,
would have
but
had we would have had to click
I don't
it.
feel bad about missing out on that one.
I think we so let's I think we should probably go wide receiver here. Let's see, who are we feeling? Polk is pretty uninspiring, to be completely honest. Devontae Walker had a pretty bad senior bowl, just dropping passes. I'm not sure it matters actually because of the dropping passes, but if it does lower his perception and push him down a little bit, and because I think it was looking like it was going to be late first, early second, I'm probably still second rounder, but maybe pushes him a little bit further back. I like Demario Douglas, but I'm not sure he's like a super upside shot. Micah Wilson's fine. Burks is fine. Gabe Davis, Wandale.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
I'm kind of into Gabe Davis here. I think
His ADP is pretty far, right? That's
it's round
yeah.
past. I mean, he's a free agent. I get he's not that exciting, but he gets a downfield role. That's the kind of thing that can produce you a spike week or two. You really don't need much from this pick anyway. So if it's just like week two, he catches a 50-yard touchdown and that's it, like I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean it also goes with the theme of our draft of just guys that can give you big spike weeks. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a fine price. He's pick 150 and his ADP is 136. Maybe he signs back with Buffalo. I don't know. I don't know what the chance what I would put the chances are, but it's definitely there's a chance of that. And if not, yeah, that role he can definitely score two long bombs any game. So wherever
Yeah,
he
I'm
goes.
actually a little more optimistic of him outside of Buffalo now. I really liked that offense when they had what was the old OC's name? Ken Dorsey, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think they're going to go pretty run heavy this year. I'm still willing to buy Diggs, especially at the discount. I think he should not be discounted. He's still awesome. If he doesn't drop that 60-yard bomb in the playoffs, we're seeing him totally differently. Um, but I don't think it would be great for Gabe this year. I think there's kind of some upside that if he goes to like what the Chiefs or Jacksonville or something, like
I
one of
was
these
just
other
about to
teams
say
that'll
Jacksonville.
throw,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the most likely outcome, but if he lands in one of those spots, like he's going to shoot up 2 or 3 rounds, right? I mean, I would be taking him at least. I mean, probably right after Marquise Brown. I don't know, late hundred single digits there.
Yeah. No, I think so. It's just the ambiguity of the situation is why
Yeah,
he's falling so much. So probably a
yeah,
good buy, but it is kind of an example of like what we were talking about earlier, like the gross guys that whatever there is an upside case for them. So
yeah. I mean, speaking of gross, I think our tight end room is about to get really disgusting. Because we kind of put ourselves in a bit of a hole here with that one. Do you have any rookie tight ends that can bail us out? Because I
yes,
don't know most of
Jatavian
them.
Sanders. Looks like he's not. I mean, I don't know
So
if
we
we want
still
to push. Like, I don't know. We probably shouldn't take him too much ahead of ADP, but if we're like within like 5 or 6 picks of ADP on him, so maybe we push him one more round. But definitely him. Juwan Johnson is probably fine.
I mean,
Uh,
Isaiah Likely with Lamar. Do we think they run more two tight end next year? I don't know that I think
um,
it's super likely, but
I think he's a little bit of a false flag. I just don't think when Andrews is healthy, he's going to get that much work. But I mean,
yeah.
fine. I would say my tight ends I prefer are Hunter Henry, Jatavian Sanders, Noah Fant, and then I cut off at the couldn't think of any more after that. But probably should take one in the next couple this round or next round.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me like we can kind of push them. So I'm
Yeah,
willing to give it one more
20
round.
rounds. Yeah.
Got any leans here?
Um, can you click to wide receiver and running back? I
Kind of
mean,
like a Keaton Mitchell
we can
midseason
go Keaton
hammer.
Mitchell for the. I'm fine with Algier, Keaton Mitchell, or Zach Moss, whoever of those guys. Wherever we're gonna get,
We're gonna get Mitchell. Oops.
that's fine. I think
Still
that's
slow.
pretty fine, especially with the running back we have. Running backs we have with those five. I think we can take the shot. Same with the Brooks. We have guys who can give us usable weeks. So we're shooting for upside with those young guys coming off ACLs. I think that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big Keaton Mitchell supporter. I think he's another good running back, explosive, grades out well in some of the success stuff. It's unfortunately a really small sample, so I'm not like super confident that he's great, but he just adds a layer to the Baltimore game that I think they want to add, right? So I think that's just a great spot to be taking a shot on him.
Yeah, we that chart, and you were showing Gus Edwards over there on all the way to the right. Like he won't get the same role as Gus Edwards of like the pure goal line guy, but definitely in a offense and
So
environment you want to be a part of. So
yeah, so I had him on one of the older versions of the chart because that one was limited to 75 carries. He was basically Devin Chan with Christian McCaffrey's role on the chart that doesn't limit the carries. It's like 30 carries, so I'm not saying that they're the same, but he really popped.
no, I think it makes sense with this room. So okay, let's recap really quickly. We have Lamar at quarterback, Brees Hall, Tony Pollard, Javante, Jonathan Brooks, the rookie, Khalil Herbert, and Keaton Mitchell at running back, Debo, Jalen Waddle, Roma Dunes, DeAndre Hopkins, Brian Thomas, Jacoby Myers, and Gabe Davis. And we are completely naked at tight end right now, but we have 20 rounds, so we'll sneak three in before I promise.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
He
find
did.
some eventually. We just got sniped on Jatavian Sanders,
Oh
so
God. I think he's going to get steamed way, way, way up. So we
yeah.
probably could have taken him at the earlier pick just to like covered ourselves off. But yeah, I think I forget the stats that I was looking at earlier, but he's probably live to go early second, early to mid second. And he has a pretty intriguing athletic profile. So I think those are the guys as we saw last year with Laporta and Mayer and Musgrave. I did not go to Northern. Fuck Northern. Let's see here.
So some of the tight ends that I think are a little interesting. We got Chicky Okonkwo. We got Tucker Kraft sitting there. He might not be bad. I
I
don't
think I
know.
like Henry or Fant over any of those guys, to be honest. If you do
I'm
have a
into
lean,
Henry.
Henry, he's a
Yep,
free agent, so
I'm fine with that. Put him somewhere good. He's going somewhere good. That's the outcome.
I used to say he's going to the Chargers, but now I don't think that's exactly what
Oh,
I
I don't
want.
know. Yeah, I don't know that I want that one anymore.
With Harbaugh and Roman there. That's well. Hey, I mean, I guess Roman had, but I think that's more talent dependent on Andrews, not necessarily the scheme.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
see. I'm excited to see what the dip in Harbaugh and Roman to the Chargers kind of produces. If players start dipping, I'll probably scoop some up, but otherwise, I'm not excited to be clicking those Chargers.
no, man, I was holding on hope after it was just Harbaugh. I'm like, okay, like there's still a chance, but then Roman just feels so gross. But yeah, I agree. Like there probably will. I think it will push down a lot of the Chargers guys. So
Yeah, yeah. It's like when it's just Harbaugh, you're like, okay, maybe he's learned. I can fix him. Like we can up the PROA. He's learned. Everyone's gonna fade him just like we did Mike McCarthy, and this is different. And now it, I don't want to be involved with Greg Roman. We don't need to
no,
do that.
if Blake Corum gets drafted there in the third round, then I'm definitely in on Blake Corum. But everybody else, I'm out.
Yeah, first 500 touch rookie season, right?
No, so I didn't go to Northern. I went to Michigan Tech, which is their rival school. Northern is in is it's about an hour and a half away from there. I played football as well, so we played them every year and we beat them every year that I went there. So have to give the shout out to I definitely did not go to Northern. So
All right. We're coming down to the end of our draft, and I think we got a little cleanup to do. We got to find some tight ends. We got to pick a disgusting second quarterback.
okay, let's pull up quarterbacks. I mean, Daniel Jones, pretty gross, but probably gonna start like after he comes off the ACL. Maybe he misses a couple games, but Bryce Young, Levis, I think those three are the guys I would be
I mean, we were memeing on Levis earlier today, and I was somehow coaxed into being in and out on him within about a 3 minute span. But we've got him with Hopkins here. The whole thesis of Hopkins, right, is that Levis only knows how to throw the ball as far as he can. This is probably where he'd click it, right?
I think this is a pretty good price. Yeah. I mean, it's not sexy. Well, I mean, Will Levis is sexy, but it's the
The fantasy
him as a
output is
prospect isn't
he
sexy,
is.
but yeah, I think it's pretty solid.
I'm open to that. I mean, is there anything else you want to
I
jump
mean,
in closer?
Fant, but I mean, I think we probably need the quarterback more. So yeah, let's go Levis.
All right, I'm into that.
I like
I'm
Fant
hopeful
a
we can
lot.
still get Fan. I agree. I think he's an intriguing guy right now.
I was getting roasted by Tyler last in August when I think I showed my exposure and I had like 23% Noah Fant in like the 18th or 18th round. I think it was a year early. I think I
Never
said that
wrong, just early.
in Discord. I was a year early. Um, I mean, whatever. He's just the same. Now I feel like I feel like I'm gaslighting myself because I was like literally like so early, and now every person on Twitter is just like buy Noah Fant, buy Noah Fant, buy Noah Fant, and I think I have like 35% in Dynasty or 40% in Dynasty because I just every time in like the 18th round or if I can get him as a throw in, I was doing it. But he was pretty good his first couple of years in Denver. His profile is just absolutely sexy as hell, pristine. Um, I think
And
wherever he goes in free agency, they'll want to use him based on the fact that they're bringing him in more than freaking Pete Carroll running a 3 tight end split. So, yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's Evan Ingram, but a worse route runner, right? That's kind of just what he is, and that's not bad. That's not a knock. Like I think after the catch, he's always looked really good to me, and all of his yak metrics have always seemed pretty good. You obviously have to catch the ball for that to be useful, so I'd like him to do that more, but I'll live with it, especially in the 19th, 17th round. Like I'm not making the right pick here 9 times out of 10 anyway. So
If Fant falls to us, I think we take Fant. Um, and then we just got to hammer a couple more. Well, I guess no. Let's see who else do we have at wide receiver and running back. I mean, we should at least be open to see what else is there.
yeah, I mean running back, I feel pretty comfortable right now.
Yeah, pushing it. Yeah.
I don't even know that I want a seventh. Um, as far as who's on the board, I mean Antonio Gibson isn't that disgusting to me. He's a free agent. He's been like he's been fine with the touches he gets. He fumbles every other touch, and he can't pass block, which is probably not great for a passing down back. But
Um. So the only other guy I'm remotely interested in here is probably Hyatt.
yeah, I could be for
Just
that.
for kind of the spike week potential of him with the deep bombs. But I say we go Fant. I think there's plenty of other rookies and other guys we can take later.
Yeah, I mean Hyatt, I am definitely into that idea. Right, we talked about a lot earlier. Everyone's like super confident that we know the skill of the players, and maybe Hyatt just like didn't get the chance this year. I think we always just like I want to be open to the idea that these guys didn't show us everything they had, or circumstances kind of held them back in their rookie seasons. Hyatt's really fast. He can probably catch a couple go balls. He goes there, so it doesn't even matter. But I'm probably going to have a little bit if his price stays this low.
I think the last team I took was had Wandale and Hyatt. I think
Wandale.
Wandale, yeah. I just think whatever. There's a lot of stink on the Giants right now, rightfully so. But young guys, and I think they'll be pretty fine picks at this range. So
Yeah. I mean, we always, I think fantasy in general, like we'll always poo-poo those bottom like 5 or 6 teams. The reality is like one or two of them is probably going to overperform by a decent amount. Look at Tampa Bay this year. They obviously had talented players compared to what the Giants kind of currently have. But like we can be wrong on this stuff, and you don't have to be right 50% or more of the time for it to pay off in these ranges. You just need to be right like some of the time.
yeah, and this is the range to take those upside shots, like we were saying. Like maybe Hyatt just becomes a really good deep threat, and whatever has a good
Yeah.
second half of the season, and that's all you really need for it to pay off. I just checked before we pick, and I have 33% Hunter Henry in Dynasty and 30% Noah Fant. So this is the all
Playing
Bengals
the hits, the
and
all
then
Bindles
the
type
best
in
one.
team. I like it though. I had a lot of Hunter Henry last year, and I guess I'll just run it back. I don't learn lessons well. I double down. I will bring the martingale to every single form of game that I play, I guess, and I'm proud of it.
Um, do you? I feel like we should probably go wide receiver here. Can you switch to the wide receiver tab
Yeah,
and let's
sorry.
see? Talk me through if there's any guys here you like.
I am going to be honest. I don't know half these names yet. Um, if any of them stand out to
Um,
you, oh dear. Oh,
I mean, yeah, go Parker Washington. That's fine.
well, we got Izzy Abanikanda, so we just
Sweet.
had
We
to
have
hedge on Brees. That's definitely the smart thing.
anytime you can handcuff yourself,
Yeah,
it's fine. Well, now
whatever.
we know
It's
we're definitely not going another running back. That's fine.
no.
Okay, so wait, we have 3 more picks?
Got 2 more picks.
2 more picks. Shit. Okay. So, I think we're good at quarterback. Let's go receiver and tight end then.
Yeah, I've got to filter down to those. I'm right there with you.
Um, Jermaine Burton, I am not familiar with. I'm familiar with most of the rookies, but not him. Johnny Wilson is 6'7", but it's not really a wide receiver profile I'm super willing to bet on, and wide receiver to tight end converts, they don't usually turn out well.
Mhm.
Um, let's see who else. I mean, there's the really gross like Demarcus Robinson, KJ Osborne, Josh
Yeah.
Reynolds type guys.
Yeah, I'm not against Josh Reynolds. Like, if Jamison Williams doesn't take another step or he gets hurt, Josh Reynolds' role is actually kind of good,
I think
right?
Josh Reynolds is a free agent. Don't quote me on
Okay,
that.
so I'll shut up.
Um, which could I mean could be he could land somewhere, whatever, and just get a wide receiver 3 role. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just missed that one entirely. So I'm gonna trust you on that one. Maybe we don't want to click Josh Reynolds.
Not on the Lions. And then tight ends, I really like Dulcich. Um, yeah, I
I was
really
gonna
like
say,
Dulcich.
I
This is the
mean,
all Bindles from 2023 in Dynasty tight end room. If we take Dulcich or Woods, yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty fine with that. I don't see anyone else on this tight end list that
Wide
I'm gonna want to
receiver
touch.
is getting. I mean, Alec Pierce.
I
Not.
mean,
I mean,
I'm not super against Pierce, right? The thesis last year was that Richardson's best trait is like the deep pass, right? He can't really pass, but he can throw deep. And then he got hurt, so we didn't really get to see that. Um, Maybe Pierce is just a go ball merchant, but if he does it once, that's okay.
I mean, yeah. I was gonna say in the 19th round. Uh, what is Pierce's ADP versus these other guys? It's about the same, right? So,
Yeah, I mean
I mean, do you want to just
it's
go Pierce just so we know, and then I'm fine with either Woods or Dulcich. I prefer Dulcich, but I kind of feel like we after Pierce, all these wide receivers are extremely gross. Not that Pierce isn't gross, but
yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. So let's just go with Pierce. We'll make it easy on ourselves. Just I don't know. It's probably kind of wrong, right? To be clicking the known quantity here and have the rookies from earlier in the draft. Um, Macro level, I think that's something I'm realizing I have to get a little away from. But when we're right about Romo Dunn's just being really good, it won't matter.
yeah, I mean, I think these rookies like they're in the tier where like obviously nothing's a sure thing, like QJ from last year, but like these are pretty live to be O'Dune's, I would say definitely top 10, barring just a catastrophic combine and everything. And like we said, Brian Thomas, probably a lock for first round at this point,
Yeah,
barring the same thing. So I think they're pretty solid late season bets, if anything. So
yeah, yeah. That's a fair point. It's always the hard question, right? Of figuring out, this worked last year, but now that the prices have shifted, how is it going to apply to this year? I I can't wait until we figure that one out because it breaks my brain every time.
yeah, they're getting, I mean, Marvin Harrison going, what does he pick, like 18 or something
It's like
now?
17 now. It's getting egregious. He went 13 in this draft. I think that is atrociously bad. I think, and I think, this is, I had the same take with Bijan last year, but I think these guys are getting like well overvalued. Um, I think they're fantastic players, but like when you when you hear that they are like Jamar Chase as a prospect, that Marvin Harrison is like Jamar Chase as a prospect, that does not mean he's going to become Jamar Chase immediately. It just means he's a really, really strong prospect. And if you go take him at pick 13 and he turns in like the wide receiver 18 season, that is a fantastic outcome for a rookie. And you also just shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
So like I can't get there. I'm gonna have zero Marv. I'm kind of sad.
I mean, yeah, at the cost he's going, I'm not ever clicking it. I'm sorry. Like maybe like once in a blue moon, I want some exposure just so I'm not at zero. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even Neighbors is going 33. I think they're more similar than people want to give him credit for, just based on the name, which I think
Mhm.
people have been talking about a little bit. But yeah, even neighbors, I'm fine, more fine with him at 33, obviously, but like these are guys that previously would have been going. Like Chase went in like the what late 40s, 50s when he had the drop pass stuff.
Yeah,
Like if it was that range, I'd feel fine. But let's go three leg, Greg. We got it. We got to
yeah.
do it.
We'll run it home and recap the team for us here if you want to run it through.
Why don't you go through and do it for it? I did it the
Oh,
first
all
couple
right.
times.
All right. I can run us through it. We got a nice starting it off with a little Brees Hall, Debo Samuel, Jalen Waddle to get us going. First quarterback off the board, Lamar Jackson for us at 43. Add in a couple more wide receivers, Romo Duns, DeAndre Hopkins, Brian Thomas Jr. Get a little dusty with Tony Pollard, Jacoby Myers, Javante Williams. So we fixed ourselves. We don't just pick old guys. We took Jonathan Brooks next. We don't need ACLs on this team. Khalil Herbert followed that up, so we actually have some running backs to play at the start of the season. And we tacked on a little Gabe Davis, a little Keaton Mitchell. Finally picked up a tight end with Hunter Henry. Got our Mayo boy Will Levis. Added another tight end, Noah Fant. And then our last three, I auto-picked Izzy Abanikanda for us. You got to handcuff yourself when you can. Added on a dusty Alec Pierce, and then finished it up with a little three-leg Greg Dulcich.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really like this team. I think we got a good mix. We got some rookies. We got some dusty vets, and we got our spike week guys. So it's like, and quarterback. I mean, obviously Lamar is going to carry you for most weeks. If Levis gives us anything, maybe he does a little bit better in the second year with an offense. It's a little bit more modern than the Derrick Henry offense. So it's pretty solid. Running back and wide receiver, I feel really good about those rooms. Tight end, definitely our weakest position, but I do think those are three guys that are liable to bounce back in a big way this year. Henry, a free agent, Fant, free agent, and Dulcich was looking very promising after his rookie year and then was out the whole year. So still think he's a pretty good bet to be a pretty solid tight end in the 20th round. So
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of this one overall. I could have guided us a little better with some of those last picks, but I think the receiver room, the running back room is just exactly how I want to build these.
juicy.
You get some really good floor and some really nice ceiling mix. It's a pleasure to have that one in the profile.
Absolutely. It's also a pleasure to have you on the stream, Bush. Really nice meeting you virtually for the first time and not just over sleeper message. Why don't let's see who else is in the chat here. Ferris, super sharp guy who's in the Bulletproof Discord and have a lot of teams with him. Dave said, good draft, had it muted so I wasn't distracted. Okay, he was locked in.
Shout out. Thank you, Dave, for not sniping us. I appreciate that one because I absolutely gave away like half of our picks.
Yeah, and our strategy of flooding or pushing up the players that we don't like, definitely good thing we didn't do that because it wouldn't have worked anyways.
Yeah, see, it would have just made us look bad. So, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for commissioning all of the wonderful dynasty leagues that you do. It's a pleasure to be in them. It's a really good time. You get a lot of good people in those leagues. So I'm very happy that I've found those.
Yeah, no, man, I really appreciate you're a super good guy to have in the leagues. I feel like you keep it light, you keep it fun, which I always appreciate when it's not everyone doesn't have to take themselves so seriously. When you get that one guy who's just like hard ass all the time, it makes it a lot harder to commish. So always a welcome sign. And yeah, we'll have to do one more this off season. I'm holding off for now, but I know I won't be able to hold off for too long. So I'm sure I will definitely loop you in. So
Absolutely, man. You let me know the next time that one comes through. I'm clicking the button. I got it. I got to go scoop some value. It's calling me. It's calling me.
Honey Bindles posted another dynasty.
Babe, wake up. Bindles got me in another startup. Yeah, now I have to get up another 15 minutes early on Sunday mornings to fix all of this. Yes.
I have to set another lineup.
Yeah.
I think Alistrada is in one of our leagues if I'm not incorrect, or in one of our leagues. All right, everyone. Well, Bush, thanks again for coming on. We will definitely have to have you on more times this off season to just whatever talk ball, go over any other new models you have, and maybe talk over a dynasty draft. That'd be kind of a fun one to do.
Yeah, we can
Um,
definitely do that. Anytime you let me know. I'm happy to cook something up, see what I can find the people.
of course. Yeah, but otherwise, just housekeeping. 3 streams a week. I only missed 1 week so far since January where I didn't do three. So getting into the groove of things. Monday mornings, either Monday or Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. before I start work. Um, Wednesday nights with L Coach. We won't have an L Coach next week because it's Valentine's Day. So we have other obligations, both of us. And Friday I have I think Rusty K, who is in the Bulletproof Discord, and I think he's also in ship chasing as well. He's a best ball sicko. So I think he's coming on next week. So we have some good guests lined up for the next few weeks. And yeah, make sure to big help would be leave a comment after the stream ends. Favorite pick from the draft, make fun of Bush's mustache, make fun of my crazy beard, whatever floats your boat, but that would be much appreciated. And yeah, everyone have a great weekend and have a great night.